I am here with Jeanette Rodriguez. And Jeanette, I'm so looking forward to this conversation because I need all the updates since you've opened. So Jeanette's in Deland, Florida, and she'll tell us a little bit more about her background and her co-working space. Her co-working space is called Vision and Heels, and she's going to tell us where the name came from and focuses on serving women professionals and entrepreneurs. So Jeanette, thank you for joining me and sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me, Jamie. I appreciate it. It's been a journey, but a fun one. And thanks for all your help and all
Yeah,
your
you went through,
tips.
I know I should mention you went through our startup school program, which is how I got to know you. And then I got to meet you in real life at Juicy, which was so fun.
It
And it was
was.
funny because it took didn't recognize you off of Zoom. I see you on Zoom all the time. And then I was like, oh, you're here in real, in real life in person. So
Yes, it was
love
my
when I,
first UC, so it was fun. It
yeah,
was an experience, and it was great to see you in person as well.
totally. Okay. So when did you officially open?
Oh boy. Okay, so we got the space March, so it's already been a year.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. No, wait. But
yes,
when did you open to members?
open to members in August.
Okay. But it has been, yeah, quite a while now.
Yeah.
Does it feel like that for you? I feel like, whoa, that went really fast. Anytime I see like member anniversaries come up, I'm like, how could that be? It makes me
I
feel like
know
life
it's
is going way too fast.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like I have stuff coming up on socials like a year ago today.
Yeah,
A picture came up of me standing in front of the sign. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's been a year. I cannot believe it. But yes,
totally. Okay,
flew
well,
by.
let's back up, talk about your background and then your co-working moment. When did you think I have to open a co-working space and it's going to be for women?
Whew. Background totally nothing to do with co-working. 27 plus years in trading operations. Originally from New York, I was born and raised in New York, and was interested in trading, the whole finance world. The
Always, like when you were growing up, did you know you
Always
were gonna?
growing up, I knew
Okay.
I wanted to do something with money,
With
and I
money?
was money, and I
Okay.
wasn't great at math, which is the funny thing, but I knew the value of a dollar, and I knew how to stretch it and multiply it, and it was great. So I decided to get into that field, worked my way up, got an MBA, and took all the FINRA stuff that I needed to take. And when I got to the top, I didn't feel like that was my place. Like something's missing. I'm finally here, worked my way, traveled a lot. Fortunately for me, I had family in New York. So the offices I worked for always had an office either in New Jersey, New York, and of course in Florida. So I was able to go back and forth and spend time in both places, which was great. Got to spend time with my dad, my brother, and the rest of the family in New York. So that was awesome. But again, I just felt like something was missing. Fast forward to when I decided to do a co-working space. After being on the top for some time, I remember telling my husband, wasn't quite 40 yet. And I told him, I said, I don't know, but something's missing. I'm thankful I'm here. I love my salary. The bonuses are great. We live a nice, comfortable life, but something is missing. And I said, I think I want to do something for women. And I've always had a following. I've always helped women in one capacity or another. I'm also a mom of an autistic, now 23-year-old adult.
Wow.
I've always helped women, either moms or help them with job search or just whatever. And so I became an advocate for special needs mom. And it was just, I told my husband, I want to do something like this. I want to help women. I want to be able to help them with the job search, help them with, their children who have special needs, help them get resources. I don't know what it is, but I want to have a hub of some sort. And when I turned 50, this is what I told him. A
Jeanette,
few
you're not
years
50.
back,
50. I know 50 is the new 30, but
no, I'm not 50
you
yet,
could be like
but
25. Oh, we were saying when you turn 50.
I
Okay,
told
good.
him, I said, and I wasn't in my 40s yet when I said this to him. And I said, when I turn 50, I'm going to stop my corporate job.
Okay.
I'm going to focus on
That's
opening
going to be the
female
pivot.
space. That's
Yeah.
going to be it.
Okay.
So then fast forward 2 years after that, COVID hit. I found myself remote. I was, operating my job from my home office, and I was
Yep.
lonely.
Yeah.
And I remember it
Is
was
your
just,
daughter still in the house with you or does she live
yeah.
somewhere
So
else?
my
Okay.
son is 23. He's the
Okay.
one has
Mhm.
autism. He is now a Stetson University graduate. So he did graduate top of his class. He was diagnosed when he was 4 and he was nonverbal.
Wow.
And they told me he would probably never get a regular education and had to be in special classes and all of that. And I didn't take that for an answer. I said, nope, I'm gonna just do this. I learned everything I could about autism. This was back in 2003, and there wasn't much of
Yeah.
out there for me.
Yep.
So I had to do a lot of self-teaching, read books, watch movies. I mean, everything you can think of, I did. And fast forward, he graduated top of his class with a general diploma and got a scholarship into Stetson University, which they call the Harvard of the South.
That's awesome.
So it's a
Wow.
really big deal. But going back to the professional piece, I also have a daughter. She's 10,
Okay.
going to be
Okay.
11.
I knew you had a younger one that was
I have a
around.
12-year gap there.
That's kind
Yeah.
of fun. I have my daughter's 11, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, only some more years left, and that's it. Am I
I
ready
know, and
for
she's
that?
about to go
Yeah,
to middle school, and it's hurting my heart because
I
she's the
know.
last one.
Yeah.
Um, she's active in sports. She's my little athlete. So she has us all over town, which is great, but a lot of work when you're trying to run a business too. But anyway, so while working, I found myself remote. COVID hit, and it was around COVID hit, and then International Women's Day was happening. And the company I worked for had an event for us, and it was to fuel and empower women and all of the things. And so I sat in, and there was a gal named Kate Luzio, who's the founder of Luminary in New York.
Yeah.
And she talked about her space, and I said, like a light bulb, like came on. I'm like,
You
this
had a
is
moment.
this
Okay.
is what I need here in Florida. Like I started stalking her, like, hey, do you know anything about Florida? I believe we have a market here. All of that. And my husband got, after about 6 months of hearing me complain and say, oh my gosh, I have to meet her, but we're in COVID. I can't get to New York.
Oh, right.
Yes. So he, as part of my Christmas gift, he booked me flight, hotel, and everything, and got a hold of Kate and her staff.
I love your husband.
Yes. And
What?
he arranged for her and I to meet. And so we met.
That guy, he listens to you.
He
Wow.
does.
Wow.
Lots of brownie points for him.
Totally.
So he arranged that, and that was part of my Christmas gift. It had to be pushed out twice because during that COVID got worse. So the trip kept getting canceled and pushed out. And I'm like, is this ever going to happen?
Wait,
Finally,
I
I
love
got
that you wouldn't
here.
settle for a Zoom call. You're like, nope, I need
Nope,
to
I
go
wanted
there.
to
I
go.
need
I
to
needed to
see
feel
it.
the space. I needed to, just go and see, because I was so excited. And I came back fueled. Like I told my husband, okay, I'm not waiting until 50. I'm doing it now. He's like, huh? Like, yep. I'm
Game
saving all my
on.
money.
We're making this happen.
Yes, yes, yes. And she was such a motivation for me because she totally self-funded, no investors, no loans. And so I said, I'm going to do that. And I started saving my bonus, my
Sometimes you just
everything.
need to know someone else has done that, right?
Yes, yes.
It's
And it was
so
just
interesting.
motivation.
Yeah. Like it gives you permission. Oh, there's a way.
Yes.
And I feel like we're going through that a lot in the industry still, like permission to do things a certain way or start a certain kind of space. Or I love that. And I need to meet her. I should have her on the podcast.
Yes, you totally should.
People come to the startup school often, like they found her, there are a few people who people show up and they're like, I'm so inspired by a certain space. So
Yeah.
that was the one. Yeah.
That was the
Okay.
one for
So
me.
game
So
on. We're doing it.
we became friends. Text her all times of night. She responded. Then I said, how am I going to do this? Okay, let me Google co-working, and here you pop up. And I'm like, okay, I'm totally going to sign up for this because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I joined Everything Coworking and learned a bunch. That pro forma scared me. I said, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And the pro forma brought it all to reality. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to wait. But it was necessary. And it really helped me and showed me, I mean, you had everything laid out for me. So for someone never having walked into a co-working space until I started to plan, and then I started doing some secret shopping and, getting around to my local co-working spaces, which in this area, there wasn't many. So I really had to drive 45 minutes north or 45 minutes south to get to one and see how it felt, here in Florida. So that's kind of how it happened. And then I planned my pro forma for a space in a whole other county. And I said, I don't know, I think I want to be closer to home. I want to have it in my county. I think we can definitely benefit from having a space like this here. And of course, with your help and the help of, just going out there and working with the realtor and trying to find something, we ended up here in downtown Deland.
Okay, I was just Googling what the population of Deland is. 38,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're about to hit 40,000.
Oh, you're about to hit 40. Yeah, a little bit of growth. Because interestingly, even before 2020, I mean, maybe Florida just operates this way in general. It's definitely a growth town.
Yes.
If you look at the little chart that pops up on Google, you can see an uptick starting, really in 2000. So a nice steady increase, but still a small town. I mean, 30 to 40,000 is still, yeah. And to go for an all-female space in a smaller market was brave.
Yes.
Although I wonder about your timing. When did you sign your lease?
So I signed my lease in March.
Right, of 2022. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And luckily for us, there was still a lot of space in the building. So we were able to negotiate and do all of the things you suggested. And we picked a space that was a doctor's office. So yes, we needed to do some build out work, but not as much. And so we I think we made the right move.
You ended up on the retail level because I feel like you had a space that was like used as a church, and yes, we went through a lot of I don't know about that, Jeanette.
Yes, I remember receiving your response with the recordings like, no, this is not going to work. Oh yes, I like this. So yeah, thank you so much.
Well, so the building you're in though is beautiful. Yeah. Talk about, and I think you kind of knew it when you found it. Like this is it.
So the building is part of a landmark in this town. And how I like to describe the land, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you hit it on the nose. If you ever watch Hallmark movie channel during Christmas and you see those towns, I kid you not, come to Deland in December and you will totally see it. Like
that's it.
They need to film a Hallmark Christmas movie here. It's just it. We have the wooden toy soldiers on the corner, like the whole thing. And so this is the town and everyone knows everyone. So it's really cool to see. And it's all about word of mouth here.
Okay, so, how would you describe the architectural style of this building? I've never seen anything like it. We'll link to your website because it's right on your website.
Yes.
Really so stunning, but it's been updated. Like the windows are new. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it's been here forever. It was a J.C. Penney way back. And then it was a bank and it had been a couple of things. But yes, it's been rehabbed. The outside still has that old town feel, but the inside is, updated. My space is totally modern. So when people come in here, I have like orange and they're like, wow, cool. They call it. So this is the new Deland is how they like to.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And we are walking distance to a lot of the federal offices, the big courthouse, which has been a plus for us, which I didn't even think about in building this out, how that was going to help us. So
yeah, that's always a win. It's hard to know. It depends on who you're serving, but meeting rooms, and it depends on whether everything locally is being done. Florida, I think, open. So they didn't move a lot of things to Zoom because I've heard folks, I had a woman who was in our startup school program outside of Toronto. She is an attorney right next to a courthouse. The courthouse closed down completely during COVID and everything went to Zoom. And so she thought she was in the perfect location. And then it turned out to not be the case. Okay. And you've got 15 5-star Google reviews.
Yeah.
So you're rocking the Google reviews. I love it. Because your background's not marketing at all, right? You came, so finance, numbers, now you're, sort of in customer acquisition, marketing, programming, you're doing a ton of events. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about who the space is for, why the name. Yeah, tell us kind of what you're up to.
Sure. So Vision and Heels, I'll tell you how the name came about. So we had two names. I had two names. And first one was FTL. And in my office at home, I had these stickies up that always drew my attention. And it was one sticky that said faith, one sticky that said thrive, and one sticky that said love. So I was like, ooh, FTL. And then, of course, my husband, Mr. Sales, because he's been in sales his whole life, he's like, for the ladies. And I'm like, oh, that one's nice. So it was FTL because it had dual meaning.
Ooh.
Or yes, or Vision and Heels. Vision and Heels is the first one I
Okay.
wrote down. And so I got with my nephew, who's an artist, and I said, okay, Vision and Heels, I want a crown over the V, and the L needs to be a stiletto. There's no, like, it has to be a stiletto. And so my nephew helped create it. And then we still had the FTL on the side. And I was like, oh, Vision and Heels is it. I got rid of the crown off the V, but left the stiletto.
Okay.
So that's how the name came about. And our space is a female forward space, but believe it or not, Jamie, half of our members are guys.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, I love it. Because
Yes.
you're clearly for someone with
Oh,
that
yeah.
stiletto.
I mean, you come in, I would love for you to come and visit if you're ever in Florida. There's like Chanel and there's Stiletto. I mean, my offices and rooms are named after shoes. So right now I'm in the Gladiator team conference room. We have a platform room. We have a trainer's room for trainer sneakers or shoes. We
Nice.
have an Oxford room. So each and every one of our rooms are named after a shoe. So it's
Themed.
super girly. Like,
But your photos, I mean, interestingly, I've seen some really girly spaces. Your logo is for sure. I just love this logo. It's so fun.
So
But
I
you're not
have my little
pink.
notebook, so you can see this is kind of
Totally. Okay, I love it. Yes, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see. If not, you'll have to go to the website. Okay, but you're not pink.
no.
No. You totally modern. Okay, I love all the photos in front on you. I'm looking at your Google business profile
Oh
photos.
yeah, as you can see,
All
there's
the
a few
women in
guys.
front of the logo. It's
Did
so
did you
good.
see the Google review with a couple of the guys? So we have a chiropractor that uses our space and took a picture in our lobby. So it's been pretty cool. We've had a few folks from New York that, because we were down the street from the museum, so they were dropping off art, needed a place to work, and the museum sent them here. And it was a guy, and he had, all his setup, his iPad. I mean, it looked like a cockpit. Like he just everything out. I'm like, okay.
But they love the vibe and they're happy to be there.
They
Okay.
loved it. They left a review as soon as he sat down. He was like, this place is amazing. It smells good all the time. We feed them. It looks nice.
Totally. You take care of them. Yeah, that's a great point. If
And
men,
for them, it's a selling point because they were like, we're inclusive. We support,
yeah,
females
yeah,
and business. We have our office in a female forward.
totally. I love it. Okay, I love it. I wouldn't have known that. And I would think the Vision and Heels like clearly states.
Yeah, they keep saying I need to change it and have a boot somewhere. And I'm like, nope,
Oh,
not happening.
that's so funny. Okay, so you're in a smaller town though. Tell me about, okay, you opened, did it go, you're doing a lot of events. Kind of talk about what you did to get people in the space. Do people know about co-working? Are they learning about co-working? What was it like to get your first members?
So although I already had a following with the ladies, I found myself having to
Local ladies and when you say following, Instagram, what does that look
following
like?
Instagram, a lot of the groups that I formed, either parents of special needs kids or women.
Your place in the
In
community,
general.
you were
Yes.
already pretty active and vocal and okay.
Right. So I felt like I had a step forward already because I already had the following. But initially, I spent a lot of time educating folks about us, right?
Yeah.
This is who we are. This is what we offer. And, it was tough in the beginning because it was repetitive and they're like, okay, what exactly do you do? Yes. So, it was tough. And now it's funny because a lot of times the members will invite people and as they're getting them signed in, you can hear them
Explaining that they
I
tell the
say
story.
shut, I don't say anything because I want to make sure they're understanding it, and they're explaining it. So they're like totally like have everything down packed. Like, yeah, this is a female forward space, and we collaborate, we meet, we have pop-ups here. If you need a website guy, he's here. Yes, he's a guy, he uses a space, but he's super cool. Like, it's just so cool to see. And they're walking around the space telling them what we've done in every single room. And I'm like, yeah, okay, they get it now. It took a while, but they get it. They get it.
I love it. Okay, what kind of events are you hosting? I peeked at your website. It looked at like you have like almost 2 a week.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I also decided to start a Toastmasters chapter.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
started it. You're not just
I
hosting
started
it.
it. Yes, I started it here. I contacted Toastmasters and I'm like, hey, I looked online. I was like, nothing in Deland. Are you interested? And they're like, yes, we've been getting called about it. I'm like, well, I have the space. So every other Thursday we meet here, which has been great. And then we work with the local university. So Stetson University, which is where my son went to.
Yep.
So it's nice to say my son's an alumni, right? Go Hatters. And actually they used our space, and that prompted me to create a student membership offering. I didn't think it was going to be popular because they're on campus.
Yeah.
So the staff has used our space because they're like, our folks want to get out.
Okay. They don't want to be on campus
campus
all the time. Change of scenery, just like anyone else. Yeah.
And because we're downtown and we have nice bars and restaurants
Okay.
literally next door, they get out the meeting and they go next door to the wine room and they have a glass
So
of
the
wine.
staff is using it, not the students.
Staff and the students.
And the students. Okay. Do you give a discount for the university?
Yep. So we give them a special price for students. And then we have a lot of nonprofits asking use our space.
Okay.
We partnered in with a school that is remote, so they do all homeschooling, but they do meetups here.
Okay.
So my classroom is on another floor, so it's even if the kids are inside the space, you can't hear them. It's not disturbing anyone, and it's just amazing because they have kids from all sorts of exceptionalities. And it's my way of giving back. The fact that they came here and the fact that I'm a mom of an autistic now adult. So it's amazing. And they use our space every Tuesdays and Thursdays. They do their meetups here. And just to see the kids, the parents come out smiling. So it's just awesome to see.
I love that. So and I'm looking at your event list is like pretty diverse.
Yeah, I'm also part of local chambers.
Okay.
So my local city chamber, and then I'm part of the West Volusia Hispanic Chamber. I'm also part of the Growth Exchange Program at the Daytona State College. That's
okay.
I'm part of the SBDC, part of the minority group in Orlando, Toastmasters. I also sit on the board of a nonprofit female empowerment group. So they do their meetups here too. A few
you're
different
hosting
masterminds.
and you're inviting groups to host. Do they pay to use your space? Okay, so it's revenue generating. Okay, but I see Life Insurance 101.
Yep.
And then I see Let the Women Speak, a panel Bible study.
Yep.
And then I see Retro Game Fest.
I mean,
that's wild. It's so fun.
Crazy. It's crazy. We've had cookie decorating. We've had knitting classes. And
it's like a hub. It's exactly what you wanted.
Literally a hub. Yes.
Okay. Talk about how many square feet.
All right. So I went small. I know everything I was sending you was like 5,000.
I know. And I was like, Jeanette, I don't know. Let's think about this. Is this?
So I think I mentioned this to you over at the conference. I regret not going bigger with more offices. Right now we have a wait list. So I was like going back and forth. And the reason why I decided to go with this space, it's 3,000 square feet. So we have 3 private offices. We have our open access space. We have 10 dedicated desks. We do the virtual mail option. We have our student membership. We have part-time membership. We have our full-time membership. So a bunch of different tiers. But I have a wait list of private offices. So what I decided to do is expand. So now we are in the process of acquiring 10 additional offices.
Wow. In the building. Okay.
same building, so we'll be on the second floor, which is why I went with this space. I'm like, I know it's smaller,
Yep,
but we
you have
have the
options.
potential to grow.
I
So I
mean, that's
wanted,
ideal. Is it not ideal? It's
yeah,
really hard to have that talk with yourself, to your point, self-funded,
yeah,
first space, to talk yourself into taking a lot of space all at once, and in a town where people don't know co-working. So
right. So
yeah,
it was a risk, and
yeah,
I said I'm gonna have to take it, and I
yeah,
was excited I did. So I think I built the hype. So it's good and bad, right? Because it's bad that I am literally turning people away. I get
yeah,
at least 3 calls a day asking for private offices.
yeah.
And we don't have a lot of competition near. There's a space in Daytona.
Yep.
Workspace Collective is growing in this area, and
Oh
I met
yeah,
with,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes,
Yep.
yes, I
Yeah,
met with
they're
the
in our community
founders.
manager program. They've been on the
Yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
yeah, they came and visited the space, and we're also going to create a partnership.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of the 2 locations that they're looking to add, which will be great because then now I can have folks use their space if they're in their part
Yeah,
of town, and
perfect.
vice versa. So we're going to work together to create a partnership. They've been amazing. But besides that, there's an executive center, probably a few miles away. And
Okay.
I've been sending folks that way too. So it's really not competition for me. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's work together to help each other, and get people understanding what co-working is, because that
Yeah.
was my
That's
biggest
really
hurdle.
the hurdle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so you're adding offices just on an adjacent floor.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Offices. So they're
Wow.
pretty much already all taken.
Okay. Right.
So I'm already
I mean,
going.
that's the beauty. If you can expand, I was able to do that in my Chicago space. I sold all the offices before I signed the lease. Like I took deposits and I was like, okay, done. Now
Right.
we can sign the lease. Are you leasing the expansion space? Just like a
Yes.
traditional lease with
Yes.
the
Yep.
good.
So I remember you saying, grab at least 10 offices. I keep replaying that conversation, and I always tell my husband that. I was like, I should have listened.
I know.
Um,
Again, it's hard. Trade-offs, you got to find the right balance for you. I'm excited for you that you got into a space where you could expand and now the landlord knows you, you're paying
yeah,
rent every month. And so it's probably a lower hurdle to get in because Florida is tough. We have a group that wants to do they're interested in doing something with childcare. So like you, not necessarily completely female focused, but real estate in Florida, has gotten really expensive and hard to
oh
get
yeah,
into. So because of that population growth, it's really in demand. So the fact that I feel like it's an advantage that you're outside of a major city. So because the hurdle to get into those spaces, they're demanding like really big deposits and just, a big cost of entry that's hard, for a lot of new operators. So you're
yeah,
in
no,
good
for
shape.
sure. And then our downtown has a lot, like, so Orlando downtown, is they have a lot of available space. No one
Yeah.
wants to go
Okay.
there because the traffic.
Huh. Oh,
Um,
Orlando, because
right.
yeah.
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 So now where we're at, there's no availability here. Like
Yeah.
everything goes so quick. And
Yeah.
another kind of regret I have is not purchasing back then, because there was a lot of stuff for sale. And
Interesting.
now downtown doesn't have much here,
Nothing. Yeah.
downtown Deland.
Yep.
So I wish I would have owned the building. That's another thing that I learned from Everything Coworking. It's better to own. But again, a little bit of fear and the fact of the unknown, right? Because
Yeah.
we were smack in the middle of COVID. So I'm like, I don't know. Is there a reason why it's cheap still? And now everything has just boomed here.
Yeah.
So
Um, so I wanted to ask about your classroom space. How big is it? How many people
well,
can?
our classroom can accommodate up to 20.
Yeah,
And
wow.
then,
And that
yes,
is also like something pre-COVID people just didn't do a lot of. That's working well for you. You're glad you did
our
it.
classroom was going to be dedicated desk. I
Okay.
tripped into that. Someone
Okay.
called me and said, I want to host a class or workshop of some sort. And then we prepped the room that way. And then another person called and another person called. And I'm like, okay, so it wasn't even part of the original plan or the pro forma. I didn't even incorporate a
Okay.
class into my revenue stream. So
Interesting. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah. And being near the college. So it just kind of turned out. Okay. So I love that example because it's a little bit like, yeah,
That, and then the attorneys, I didn't anticipate, I didn't think
Mm,
about the amount of attorneys we would have because of our, how close we are, our location where we're at. We've had an attorney that was trying a case locally. Their office was 30 or 40 miles north of here. So they booked my conference room, paid a per day rate for an entire month while the
wow.
trial was happening. And I was like, huh? And then they told another person that told another person. And before you know it, like my conference rooms were all full, which is why we
Wow.
had to create the other room, the vision lab,
Okay. Okay.
because our room was constantly booked out with attorneys just wanting to be here because they wanted to be walking distance to the court. So another, revenue stream that I didn't even think about. So now we're marketing more towards attorneys and just, that, but that came from word of mouth. One attorney told another that told another, and it's been nonstop since.
So I'm curious, how do most people find you? Where do your leads come from?
This town, word of mouth and
Mm,
Google. So
yeah.
if you look
Okay.
up co-working near me, we're
Yep.
going to be
You're
probably
there.
the only ones that come
Yep.
up.
You've got your 15 5-star Google reviews. So
Yes,
you're looking
yes,
good. People trust
yes.
you. Yeah.
So Google has been popular for us. And word of mouth is huge. Being part of the chamber has been amazing. They use our space for their leadership meetings.
Okay. I love that. I think there are a lot of, suburban co-working used to be like, does it work? Does it not? Pre-COVID, I had literally had, I think number 50, my podcast was like, does suburban co-working work? And there are some real advantages, which is like word of mouth, like, people, in other places, word of mouth is just not as powerful.
Oh, here it's
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
Yesterday, I gave a tour. So I had a gentleman that was sitting in the front, gave a tour. She walked by and saw Fuel and Empower Women through co-working, because that's part of my brand, right? That's right on the window.
And your
And she's
retail
like,
level. So you get, right. You
yes.
get the
So you're
foot
walking
traffic.
by,
Mhm.
and she came in. She was like, I want to know what this is about. Fuel and Empower Women. Talk to me. And she left out of here almost in tears. She's like, this is amazing. And she was like, I know him, the guy that was sitting there working. So I'm like, really? Okay. And so, yeah, it happens all the time. We're also across the street from a coffee house. So people are in there trying to work. It's loud. It's a smaller coffee house. They're like, we need a place to work where it's quiet and we can get stuff done. They come right across the street to us.
So do you have signage on the windows? Do you have like a sidewalk sign?
I do. I have one
Yeah.
of those sidewalk signs right out front. I have a big old sign, and you can see us if you're opposite and on across the street. The sign is big enough that you can see it.
Yeah, perfect. So people are sitting there like, this is not working, and they glance at your sign. They
Even
come
cars, right?
over.
So there's a light right there. So while they're at the light, when
Ah,
you'll see them look and read the window. And many times they'll do a U-turn and stop right in front
oh,
parking. We have parking at the building, which is huge for us downtown.
yeah.
So they love that they have access to parking and they can walk everywhere when they get here. So location,
Yeah, I
and
was
you,
going to say you got lucky in a few ways, I think. Like the
yeah,
courthouse piece, which you didn't necessarily anticipate,
right,
being downtown in a like visually really notable building. I mean, you
right.
could tell people, or people can tell their friends, hey, it's in that. Does the building have a name?
No,
Okay.
it's next to another, like a theater. So they'll say, go find the Draker Theater. It's
Okay.
right there.
It's
Or
right
they'll
there.
say across the street from the coffee house.
Yeah, and it's a really
Yeah.
visually notable building. Yeah, I think it's super interesting when you think about marketing. You just never you can make some assumptions based on the market type. If you're in a big city, though, you have to pay. You're going to have to pay for ads
Right.
because you're going to be at the bottom of the list of co-working, near me for a while until Google catches up and starts to, move you up on the list and you work on SEO and that kind of thing. Speaking of which, what did you build your website on?
We use Wix.
Okay.
I
It looks
paid
great.
someone, thank you. I paid someone, a young kid, he used another platform and wanted to learn Wix. So he's like, if you're
I'll do
interested,
it.
yeah. So he's like, I'll do it and I won't charge you much. I'm like, hired.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
fine.
Especially for your first one, right? Because
Yeah.
I like the your membership grid is nice, really clear, easy to follow. You've got, everything kind of just easy to find, super simple. And then are you using a management platform? How do you bill people?
Yes, so I'm using N cards right now. So they're also, yes, it's new. And I think I mentioned to you what we're using for the door access. And I got that
Yes.
recommendation from Michelle down in South Florida, who
Okay,
you
cool. Yes.
connected her and I. So yes, you connected us a little over a year ago. And so we built a partnership here in Florida, and it's been great. So
Awesome.
she gave me some recommendations as I was building everything. And it's helped save me a
Cool.
ton of money too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important to right, make it simple. I was actually I was looking online. Is it Sifly that you're using
Quickly.
for
Yep.
your, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
can you just talk about it a little bit?
Yeah,
Because
of
it's one
course.
of those little things that everybody listening wants to know about.
Yes, so totally, I'm gonna give Michelle props on this one because she's the one that told me about it. So she sent me a picture of the guy actually installing it. She hired someone to come and do it for her. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna buy it. And so I had a locksmith come and install it for us. Super easy. You have web access. You can access from your phone. You give
Okay, so
everybody
it has the
that
digital access. Yeah.
digital access. I can see who comes in when. So if like we have a group that works out of here, it's an employee of three, they have 3 employees. It's a group of 3. So sometimes they'll say, hey, can you run a report? So I know who came in when. I can do that really easy, or, my staff can do it for them. So it's super easy. They can get access. If I'm not here, someone needs to come in to set up for an event, I can easily unlock from my phone. So it's really cool and easy. I love
Yeah.
it, and save me a bunch of money.
I
And I
yeah,
don't pay monthly for it, which is great.
you don't
Uh,
pay monthly for it.
I don't pay monthly. I just purchase the equipment, and
Yeah.
then different types of locks based on your door. And we
Yep.
have old doors, so we had to do some maneuvering
Okay.
because of the
Yep.
it being a landmark and the doors being different than a
Mhm.
traditional door. So that kind of cost me a little bit more because of the door type,
Yeah.
but the equipment itself was super cheap.
Okay. I'm gonna put a link in the show notes because
Yes.
people are always looking for simple, if people who have multiple locations, and I think, sometimes it makes sense to do, the key et cetera, but I know those can get really expensive. So this is awesome. Perfect.
And
Very
it
simple.
all adds up when you're self-funding and,
Totally. Yep.
it was like, okay, what can I save on? And that
Yep.
was one of the things that worked.
Yeah. 100. I mean, it's amazing that it has the digital door access. So I love that. Okay. So speaking of, we'll give Michelle, wait, is her space still called, is it her power
Her
space?
power space, yep. And
Michelle,
now she
tell
has
her.
2 locations. So
Yeah,
yeah,
she's rocking and rolling. We'll give her a big
loving
shout
it.
out. Okay, so you worked with her, you took our startup school. What advice, now that you're like 8 months in, what advice would you give to other co-working space operators, either who are like just starting, like in general, or thinking about a niche? What have you learned that you would pass along?
Oh boy. Couple things I'm gonna say. Location, location, location. That's gonna be key. I met folks that have co-working space in other places and haven't been as lucky. So I think for us, being in the downtown Main Street area has helped tremendously. So location, location, location. And if you're gonna be specific to a niche, make sure your vision is understood. So as I mentioned earlier, with some of the members being able to tour and speak of the space means everything, right? That means that I delivered the vision, they get it, they love it, they understand it, and they're
Yeah.
telling other people,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, your
So,
story about the woman who walked out almost in tears, it's like
yeah,
clearly she thought you made a space for me.
yeah. And also guys, so earlier this week, and so it's funny, 2 guys were talking about men's health stuff. And sometimes I sit in the front and I'm working, but I'm listening and they're talking about guy stuff. And so I'm like, okay, let's hear what these guys talk about. So it's funny, they were talking about health, men's health stuff.
Mhm.
And they ended the conversation with, well, I wish you all the best in your tests. And they were talking about certain tests that they were going to get done. And then one said, okay, I'm going to pray for you. You pray for me. All right. Let me know how it goes. And he walked out and I was like, oh, like, this is what this space
Yeah, that is
is like. This
beautiful.
is why I built this space.
100%. Yep.
And it's two totally
Wow.
different, like they're not even in the same industries. They probably would have never met if it wasn't for
Yeah.
this place.
And now
And
they're talking about their
they're
men's health
connecting.
issues and they're
Men's
praying for each
health, like now they're going to see doctors and doing all the important stuff that
other.
us girls always say they have to do. So we're rubbing off on them, which is great. But things like that, just make sure your vision is clear. Make sure location, 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 and make sure that if it's specific to niche, that the community understands your vision.
Okay, so I have a question about that. What do you think you are doing to create that culture?
Oh boy, staying involved in the community. I mentioned
Yeah, what does
all
that
the
look
things
like?
that
How do
we're
you
doing.
spend your day? You said sometimes you work up front, but right now
Yeah,
you're hiding in a, in a room while
so
we record.
I know, yes, I have to hide because I have all these members that decided to come in today. Because typically that's why I picked a Wednesday.
Oh,
I'm
is it
like, that's
quiet
my
on Wednesday?
hump day. Sometimes it's quiet. It just depends on what's going on in the town as well.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let me pick Wednesday in the afternoon. And of course it got so busy. So I was like, I grabbed my laptop. I'm like, I'm gonna go hide. I put signs outside the door, do not disturb, all over the place. And I've already seen two people kind of peek in, but it's okay, all good. So I don't know if you know this, but I stayed working my full-time job while building this. So I hired a
Okay,
staff.
good. Yeah.
I had two, and I worked, and that was the hardest thing.
Ooh,
And I'm gonna tell you why, because
okay.
I could have done so much more a lot
Mhm.
earlier. Like I was invited to a bunch of things.
Yeah.
They invited me to go speak at the university. They had a
Mm.
business management course, and they wanted me to go and speak to the students. And so I found myself asking for days off, so
Yeah.
taking PTO so I can be here.
Yeah.
And it was just so hard juggling the two. And I
Yeah.
kept telling Kate, hey, I'm still doing it. She's like, how are you doing it? Like, I was like, I don't know, but I'm tired. And I just found myself super tired because my heart was here. This was my
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. This was where your
so
passion was now.
my
Yeah.
passion was no longer at the corporate place.
Yeah.
And, things just got ugly over there. And it's like, why am I going through this if I have a space that I love? And this is my passion. So I stopped working and did this full time. And it's been the best decision I've made.
Yeah, I think we talked about that at Juicy. I think that's really tricky because it just depends on, for people listening, it depends on finances. Like,
Yeah.
do you still need the day job? Can the space, because it takes time to build up the space. I mean, you have ramped up pretty quickly and you're expanding already after 8 months. So that is going well. And I suspect those extra 10 offices will go a long way to creating profit for the
Oh,
space.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And having time to focus on that. It's super tricky because I like the risk mitigation of keeping the day job, but we were talking about culture and getting started, and it's different when you put somebody else in the space right away to take care of it. I think
yeah.
that can more easily be done after you've established the
Yes.
culture. But again, then you don't, it depends on what your day job is too, right? If it's really all in, some people can do both a little more easily. And it sounds like that was just hard because you had to be super present,
Both
so
were demanding. Both were
yeah,
really demanding.
yeah,
So, and with the expansion and everything that was going on here, I said, okay, it's time.
yeah,
And yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, 3 days out of the week, I'm out in the field, just in the community.
yeah.
So you
So,
ask,
so
what am I
you don't have
doing?
staff all the time.
I do have staff. I have one
Okay.
full time.
Oh, you do have somebody there who's full time.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I have a part-time person that helps with just IT stuff and technical stuff. And we have a classroom on the third floor. So I had to grab extra when I found out, okay, hey,
Yeah.
classroom is on high demand. I grabbed another office on the third floor and I
Okay.
created a classroom there because I
Yep.
used to have it here, but it was too small here. So I had to,
Love it.
yes.
Your
So
landlord's like, okay, and you want
yeah,
more
they're loving
space.
it. They're loving it. The owners of the building live in New York and have been in the
Oh,
office a couple times
oh,
and love
interesting.
it.
They're like,
Yes, they
what's
love it.
happening here? Right. Because you're
Yeah,
activating their building and you're like now the face of, you're on the first floor, the retail level. That's awesome.
yeah.
And I also, you mentioned staff because I was thinking, oh, if you're not staffed, how do you handle mail? Because you went straight for mail. Lots of operators. Was that a Michelle influence?
It was. Yes, it was. So I asked her, I'm like, this mail stuff, I'm kind of scared to
Right.
launch it. She was like, no, it's amazing, great revenue stream. And yes, so we have folks from all over just wanting to have like a space in this area. You know, is the attorneys we have a few on the list
Right.
for
The
private
attorney
offices because
fee.
now they want an office in Deland.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's and so they're virtual members now for now until they're off. They already have, you know, their office picked out on the second floor. I have the floor plan and everything. So
Yeah.
they know where they're gonna be. But yeah, yeah.
So are you listed on Anytime or iPostal? How do you get your mail leads?
Yes, yes, yes. So mail has initially it's been just organic.
Okay.
Folks Googling, you know,
Yep.
virtual mail
Which
or
is also
virtual
just a learning I love for people to hear who are listening, because you're in a smaller market and I think operators all the time are like, who needs an address in DeLand, Florida? No
yeah.
one. They do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. Yeah, so it's been really popular and just local businesses that are remote, they don't want their
Mm.
home address on
Yep.
Google.
Yep.
That's been a biggie. So we
Yep.
have a lot of folks with side hustles that don't want their home address on
Yeah.
Sunbiz, which is where you put your corporation here in
Yeah.
Florida. So if you plug in, that's all public information, you
Yeah.
can see their home address and they don't
Yeah.
want that. So
Yeah.
that's been pretty popular with the side hustles and the home-based businesses.
Awesome. And then you're gonna list on those lead gen sites.
Yes, yes, I believe I have to check, but I my
You're
community
getting
manager
there. Okay.
already has us on
Okay, good.
iPostal
Perfect.
and a few others. Yeah, so I think we're already in a lot of those.
Wait, and you're $60 a month.
Yes, $60 for the
I
virtual.
like it.
Yes,
Okay.
and
You
yeah,
didn't go for the low. Good, good, good. Okay.
yes, we decided to keep it. Our lowest cost membership is 60, so we're not doing
Okay.
anything under that. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Love it. Thank you, Michelle, for giving her the influence, because I talk about it a lot, but I know sometimes you just need to hear it from somebody else who's
Yeah,
who's doing it and can say, no, it works. And
it
Michelle's
does.
been really committed and has done well with it. So I love that. Okay. Um, anything, okay, so look, talked about culture, location, being super clear about who you serve. Anything else? Um, yeah, anything else you'd share about kind of,
Yes.
yeah,
So something that I like to call it our sisterhood. So in connecting with Kate, she's very well connected. And she designed a sisterhood. I like to call it sisterhood, but a partnership of other female forward spaces throughout. And I think we now have 3 that are international. So it's a total of 26 or 27 spaces. And the cool thing is that our members here, if they're traveling anywhere, you know, within those 26 locations, they can utilize that space. So it really is like a partnership and expansion without us having to pay for, you know, an
yeah,
expansion. And now they have access and it's been used. Like I had a member in New Jersey and went to the New York location and worked out of there and actually met a client there. It's been great. And so Kate started that partnership. Initially when we started, I don't think we were barely at 20. We're at 26, 27 now with 3 international locations. We meet monthly. During Juicy, I think it was about 6 of us that
I
all
was
met.
just thinking, I was like, I know
Yeah.
Felicia's in it, and
Yes. Yep. Haven. Yep.
yes,
Yep. Yep.
Leslie
Yep.
from
Yep.
Maven Space. I know Leslie's coming up on, she's in our operator membership. She's coming up on her year anniversary. And same thing, I was like, I cannot believe it's been a year already.
Yes, it's been
Yeah, I
great. Her
love
and I
that.
kind of started at the same time. I think we probably were at the same cohort with you. So when we met at Kate's, partnership meeting, I was like, I remember you from Everything Coworking. So it was pretty cool. And then I got to meet her in person over at
Yeah,
Juicy. So we all decided those that were going to Juicy to meet up at one of the spaces in Chicago. And we hung out the night before the conference started. And that was so much fun. And we got
yeah,
to know each other. And that was a lot of fun.
very
So
cool.
that partnership has been great. And then we meet monthly, we talk about what works and we market each other, right? So just being able to post that map and say, hey guys, there's these other amazing spaces. If you're traveling and you're a member, you have access to all these spaces. So that's been awesome for us.
Very cool. I love it. Jeanette, thank you for sharing, taking the time to do this. And you're still new and learning. Congratulations
Everyone's
on
learning.
your
Yes.
success to date and your expansion. So we'll have to have you on again in a year and learn,
Absolutely.
what you're up to. And I'm going to link your lock system and your website so people can kind of take a look and look at your messaging and see what you're offering and all those good things. So yeah, thanks for sharing your story.
Oh,
It was super fun for me to hear kind of what you're up to and more of the story.
yeah, you have been like my co-working mommy, so I have to give you
Oh
the
no.
update.
Totally. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's why we do, I was just thinking, I was like, I really am fortunate to do the work that I do and to get to meet people like you who are, bringing this to life and the impact that you're making on your community. It's amazing. So
thank you.
I
Thank you.
love it. Thanks for doing this. Talk to you
Thanks
soon.
for having me.